Hey everybody, Ramey here, and today what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through and show you an example of an instructional design proposal. This is a key to being an instructional designer, especially being a consultant, because you need to be able to get clients, get projects, especially if you're an individual consultant or a small company. You have to be able to take on clients and get them. So how do you write that proposal once you see a company has a problem? How do you tell them what you're going to do, how you're going to solve it? You need to write a proposal. The first thing I want to say is there are no two proposals that are alike. So the sample I'm showing you is the most basic, what a small, simple project. I wrote a quick proposal for a $10,000 project that I'm going to show you the example here. Obviously, I've taken out all names and everything like that, so it's not identifiable or anything like that. But I'm going to show you the most basic, and then I'll talk about how they get more and more advanced as you become, this is a small $10,000 proposal, but there's a difference between a $10,000 proposal and a $2 million one. And I'll explain some of those differences, just so you can kind of, get a feel for what you would need to do, what you would need to include. But this is essentially what a lot of my proposals look at, in the under $100,000 mark, what I'm really showing to a company. So I'll kind of talk through some of that too as I go through this. So first page, I simply have a title page where you have like your logo, your name, and you kind of show them what's going to be in the proposal. So I have my table of contents, which is simply my everything that's included in my proposal. So you can see here, I start out with an about us. I have an executive summary. I have my plan for solving the problem. And then I have a schedule and cost, how much it's going to cost. All right, so let's start out with the first part. First part is an about us. So I have my first paragraph is about my company. Now I run a small consulting firm. We have 2 people who are in charge of it, and then we have a number of external consultants that do work for us. So when I write this, I write about our 2 partners, the people who they're going to have the most contact with. When we bring on other instructional designers, we introduce them to the client after we've already won the project. And so during these initial meetings when I'm writing a proposal and talking through the client, they're just meeting me and my partner. We're the ones that talk them through the project, get them to sign on to us. I'm the one that convinces them that I'm the right company to solve the problem. So I have this about me paragraph. I have this first about our company, which is very general information about us, kind of generic, but also has some key numbers like how long we've been in practice for and things we've been doing. Then my about me is what I've been doing. Who have I worked for? Who trained me? What are my degrees? What are my qualifications? And then you can see my partner's qualifications here as well. So we have each of ours are that written there. Then we have our executive summary. Our executive summary starts out with our purpose. Now this is where I write a few sentences about the company we're working for. So like if it was Microsoft, I'd write about Microsoft, or Amazon, I'd write about Amazon, or whatever. So whoever the company is, I'd write a little paragraph about them here in the purpose. And then I would say this, this project details the project plan for whatever you're designing. So in this example that I wrote up here was for a quick $10,000 project, which is a 30-minute e-learning course. All right, so I have my project overview, which goes through, what are we actually going to do? This project is designed to provide trainings to internal sales team members. So, you can see kind of what I'm going to be doing. I'm trying to explain to them. And this is all generic stuff the client already knows because they've told me what I'm doing. But I need to make sure they see in this proposal that I understand their problem and I understand the best solution to it. So I rehash it for them. Who is their target audience? What are the primary objectives? Next, we get to our actual design and development plan. So I have our deliverables here. So you can see I might develop, this is a 30-minute e-learning tutorial, which I've written up for this sample. I have a module, a basic sales module. Here's what it's going to do. It's going to be 30 minutes long. And, I'm going to have a SCORM file. So I'm delivering them 2 things. This was for a computer-based training. I'm delivering them the module and the SCORM file so that they can implement it with their learning management system. So everything I'm giving them, I've told them right here. Instructional strategies that we'll be using. And this is very basic, just so they understand, what a course looks like. Now, obviously, I've hopefully been able to show them some samples at this point of my work, but if I haven't, they're going to get a basic idea. And you don't know the person reading the proposal is always the person you've been meeting with, because sometimes they might pass it out to a team or something to make that decision. So I give them some very basic, like, these are the things that are going to happen. Like, we're going to maintain learner engagement. We're going to use stories involving authentic scenarios. We're going to apply concepts for learners to use immediately after the training. We're going to utilize software simulation if it's needed, provide knowledge checks and assessments. We're going to have an award of completion for your learners, just so they understand these basic strategies that are going to be incorporated into this training. Media and technology, we tell them how it's going to be developed. For this, I just wrote up, we're going to use Storyline 2. Most instructional designers today are using Captivate or Storyline, so we kind of write about what that is a little bit, just so they understand how easy it is to work with their system. Usually they have some kind of LMS that we're going to be publishing this file to. And this is where I start to tell them about what I'm really doing. So, the course will incorporate screens that the learners will be going through to test their software. We're going to have audio narration here. Audio narration is going to be recorded by a professional recording service. I make them fully aware that I'm using an external vendor to have a piece of the project done. So they know who the vendor is and they know what is to be expected. Internal branding and logos will be provided by the company we're working with. And then we talk about implementation and hosting. Like, how is this going to be rolled out? This is a small 30-minute module. So this course would be implemented on their learning management system. Then we have our schedule and approach. You can see all the stuff I'm writing about here is going to vary so differently based on the company you're doing this project for. So like, the basics, I have this design phase. It's going to take me 3 weeks. I think we made this project like it had a 5 or 6 week turnaround time, something like that. I can't remember. So first we had our design phase where we were doing really our upfront analysis. And we had done a lot of that already when we were meeting with our client initially, but you can see like how I've broken it down here. We meet with them. What are the steps we go through? We review their materials. We gather their stuff. Lots of sign-offs. We create a design document. Hey, this is all the stuff that's going to be in your project. Sign off on it. We give them a content outline, which includes our scripts. Again, they sign off on it. Then we start developing. We get our sound recorded. We develop storyboards. Have them sign off on it. Have them sign off on everything. So before they've actually seen a course, we've probably had them sign off like 4 or 5 times already on different pieces, different components of it to ensure that we're they're not going to, they know when they sign off, they can't come back and change things. This helps us from rework and things like scope creep. And then you can see we developed alpha versions, we developed beta versions so that they can see various versions of the course. They have ample time to edit and modify it. And then our implementation and completion date. And we have a note here that complete time is always dependent on the availability of our subject matter experts. So this schedule will change if our subject matter experts are not available. Just basic stuff, but important. Project cost, I just gave this a generic project cost of $10,000. Just wanted to make it a nice even number so you can see for this example what it could cost to do a project like this. And for a 30-minute course, depending on what they want, that's about right, actually. Professional audio, so I have my audio. So when you're using external vendors, you have to put the price of how much that vendor costs. You also need to make sure, you can't write a proposal without having worked with those vendors before to know how much they're going to charge and what's needed. So I always make sure I have a budget for that and I know what I'm going to use. For this project, I only was using professional audio. I was doing the rest of the work. So I didn't need to hire anyone else externally, but I would have that built in and broken down here for the client to see. Then I have optional cost for revisions if they need us to revise things after they've already signed off. And then I have a payment schedule. I like to break my payments out into 3 phases. So usually prior to the start of the project, I require 20%. I do that so that I can pay any of my vendors that I'm using. I can give them their money up front. And also if there are any project startup costs for me. And also so all that initial time I'm putting into this project isn't for nothing. Phase 2 at 50%, once design is approved, before we begin development, they pay us another 30%. So basically, before we develop their project, when they've signed off, they've paid us 50% already. And I know some companies that'll charge 50% before they start, 50% after, that kind of thing. We choose to break it up into 3 pieces. Again, there's no right answer here. There's no, it has to be like this. This is just an example of what I'm showing you. And then when the project's finally approved, completed, they give us the rest of the 50%, and we have a sign off to begin. Now, this is a very, very simple proposal, very basic. This is at the most basic level, a $10,000 proposal. So what if I'm writing like a $2 million proposal? How does it get more complicated? What else is there to add besides this? So First of all, like especially as you start to talk through like government proposals and projects, they have their own set of requirements. They will say in their proposal, hey, we want you to include this in your proposal. We want you to include this. So you have to include all that stuff. Like they may want full resumes of all employees. Of everyone working on the project, they may require a full 1 or 2 page resume versus the paragraph that I have. Then they may start, usually what happens, what I see happen, and this is what I have my students do as well in my project management classes, we actually go and we learn how to write a proposal. I show them this most basic one, and then I go into more advanced. When they start getting more advanced, what we start doing is adding in the components of project management, like what is the communication plan for this? You know, we come up with all these. Do we have a project charter? We don't need a project charter for a small project, but for a large one, we will. So we start adding and incorporating all those components of project management, and all of a sudden this, 8-page proposal that I've written here turns into like a 120-page proposal. And it's not that it has any different information than what I have here, but it goes into it in a lot more depth. Like I'll have a full Gantt chart versus me having just a simple project schedule that I've written out like this. I'll provide a full Gantt chart. I will have a quality management plan. How are we QAing everything? Different components of project management start to come into the proposal. For something simple like this, you don't need it. But for a basic first proposal you're writing as an instructional designer, this is a great little example of what it could look like. And keep in mind, just like storyboards, there's no one way to write it. The right way to write it is the one that answers every single thing the client is requesting and meets all their needs and gets you the work. And actually does solve the problem, so there's not something like scope creep. So you can see here in just a final screen here are the main components, the things that I've written about. This is a good starting point for you to write a proposal for a client. Thank you.